It is time for map number 2, time for Ohana, time for game number 2 in this Terran versus Terran. To the top left we have in the red our Terran player for TSL. It is
TSL Port.
Such a good player. Very aggressive. His opponent in the blue for the team LGIM. His ID defines him. He is
LGIM MVP.
a 4-time champion here. Really strong player, of course, but in the last game he had to surrender.
Yeah, he could not hold the attack, and I'm curious to see if Polt is going to be aggressive in the same way in this game. Not going to be going gas first though. They're both going for that normal barracks timing. And like I said last game, I expected to see 1rax expands, and this may be the time that these players choose that build. We're going to find out in just seconds here as the gas timing approaches. And there's the gas for MVP.
And guys, while we are currently watching those build orders unfold, MVP is taking gas at this point, by the way. One hint for all of you who might not aware of this: holders of a yearly ticket for either the GSL or the GSTL can check out the can get actually the high quality stream for either for free or for $5, as far as I know. It depends on exactly which ticket you hold, but you still have to, you got a coupon, but you still have to go to the GomTV site and to purchase the ticket, and there you can add your coupon number. This is something that apparently confused a lot of people. We're probably gonna repeat this over the duration of the cast. It's only valid for the next 2 days as far as I know, so definitely check this out. You should have received the coupon already, also by email, and then when you log in on the GomTV website there will be a pop-up. But in order to make good use of it, you need to click on this purchase button. Then you can enter the coupon and can put it to some good use.
Yeah, and tell your friends as well, because you know, a lot of you guys probably already bought it. You're watching now, but somebody who wants to watch VODs or something like that may not know. So just tell everyone you know. Here's the factory coming down for MVP. Had a pretty normal timing. He didn't go for an early gas, and Polt is putting his command center on the high ground, not taking any big risk here. And he's not scouting though, like MVP did last game, so he's not going to be able to prepare as well. But either way, he's just doing the same build. Double gas is here.
If you don't scout in any matchup, then it's usually just because you think that your build order is fine against anything that your opponent could do. We saw this also in the European scene. Some players were really famous for not scouting. Show, for example, he never scouted, never. The earliest that I ever saw him scout was with his first Hellion. I think at some point he tried it for a couple of weeks with SCVs and then was like, nah, I don't like it.
You know, I actually really respect that opinion though, because if your build order is actually good enough to hold anything, and you feel that way, then why would you scout? That's something that will always be debated. Some people feel more comfortable with the information. For example, MVP got kind of lucky last game with his scout, was able to see everything, but he may not have. And this pressure from MVP is going to be shut down quite easily. There's already 4 Marines at the top of the ramp. He loses an SCV, losing some hit points here as well.
I'm actually not a huge fan of not scouting. It depends on how you prepare for the games. With, for example, with Show, he did this in every single game, also in matches in the tournament. So I feel that he's really confident with his build order. But the problem that you have when you don't scout in general is if your opponent knows that you tend to not use scouts, you can just go for very, very, very greedy openings and get away with them.
Yeah, you become predictable.
This will definitely give your opponent an advantage then. So that's something that you always have to figure in. And of course with these games, the player know in advance who they are going to play, so they try to identify the style of their opponent on a specific map. And that's really cool to see sometimes, especially when you're after the matches, when the players are in an interview and they talk about certain decisions that they made that did not really make a lot of sense when you see it on screen, but then when they explain, okay, well, I watched this in this game and I assumed that he was trying to go for this strategy, would not scout, and I tried to exploit it, and suddenly it becomes all clear. So that's pretty cool, those mind games that we've seen going on.
Yeah, it can be quite, I mean, it works out a lot of the time when you think about builders that your opponent has seen, or you've seen of your opponent already. Now this attack may be shut down again simply by this concave of Polt. MVP actually going to try to break up the ramp. He does get a good hit on the Hellions. The second hit is good as well. Nice micro, and SCV comes to help out here. And I don't know if Polt actually has enough to hold this first wave.
This is really dangerous now. There's not only the medivac in order to heal the Marines, but also these Hellions that still do damage. Polt with a little bit of stutter step damage here. He's trying to get more units into play.
He needs to repair this stim. He absolutely cannot afford to lose that. SCV is coming off the line, and he's actually targeting them down with the Hellion here. Got to be oh so careful. He will keep stim alive, but so many SCVs going down in the process.
Way too many. He was behind SCVs. MVP cut down the SCV production earlier to make this push happen. He needed the extra resources, and therefore we have both of them now at roughly the same amount of harvesters. So that's really important here. Of course, Paul lost a fair amount of harvesters. He lost 7 in total. But in order to get into this position, MVP was not building SCVs earlier when he could have.
Yeah. So now, Polt actually, even though it looked like he struggled to hold there, is in a decent position. He's already got Stim finishing up here, so he's got that tank advantage over MVP. MVP getting his own siege tanks back at home, but so is Polt. So this is actually a pretty good position for Polt right now. MVP is going to have to power up additional barracks. He's adding 2 right now. But Polt is feeling great now. He's going to start combat shields very likely as soon as that stim finishes, as it did now. And he's going to have this forest that he builds very quickly that will allow him to either pressure MVP directly by ground or take a third base.
I feel that if Polt would have tried to target down the Hellion, he could have defended a little bit better in the game, but he also had a siege tank on his way, and that was what he originally intended. Just trying to wait a little bit and to buy himself time so that the siege tank finishes. And the siege tank can take care of the Hellions while the rest of the Marines are focusing down the bio units of MVP. But here comes now one of the Vikings trying to get in here, have a quick look, maybe even using the assault mode. Nah, with the Marines now already in position.
Cool. This is like one alternate way of scouting that we don't see very often in TVT, where you just literally fly a Viking across the map. I mean, yeah, he's going to lose it, but it's just so interesting to see.
He might not even lose it. The Viking is running away. How cool is that? Run, Viking, run.
The Hellion's on the chase, though. Oh!
No! We've seen Banshees killing Vikings. Now we've seen Hellions killing Vikings. I think soon I will have seen it all.
Yeah, I think we practically have. Once a medevac starts to kill, that's when things are going to get really scary.
The medevac pilot purposely crushed his medevac into Viking. That is an assault mode on the ground.
I mean, I guess you could say the medevac kills Marines and drops them on top of banelings or siege tanks. But this is a pretty big push coming up for Polt, but MVP basically has the identical units. The difference here being that Polt has siege mode and MVP does not. So will he actually try to use this time? Because if he does, I think he will win this fight. Here we go. Tank sieging up, and he's got stim as well. This is something MVP does not have, and this is going to be a great engagement for him. I think he was a little bit overzealous with his first group of Marines, though. I think he could have done a lot better here.
The thing is that those siege tanks, and when they're not in siege mode, are actually pretty good against siege-up tanks, as long as you get close enough. But Paul had the problem that he didn't have enough Marines to shield them.
Yeah. Well, back at home, he starts combat shields now. A little bit delayed, but it's going to be, I mean, that's the choice he made. He wanted to get the faster siege mode instead. He's also got the 3rd Command Center. And with the 3rd Command Center up as early as it is, MVP is going to have to put some pressure on, or else he will become behind. But since he's ahead right now as far as that trade went, things are still fairly even here. Another thing to note is that Polt is getting +1 right now. It's something that MVP already has for his Marines. Starts +1 armor, so he's ahead in upgrades.
Yeah, both of them still at roughly the same harvester count. You can see the unit counting station right now. MVP has this small lead over his opponent in units. But both of them are just rather a little bit more passive at this point. And MVP now moving out, but he cannot really do too much damage if he does get into a great position. He has the advantage in army supply, but if Polt sees this, he can just siege up and use the defender's advantage here to throw MVP back.
And look at how many units he's sending across the map to scout. He's got the watchtower, he's got Marines running everywhere he does see it. And this is something that he will be able to prepare for. 3 tanks positioned in between the natural and the 3rd base. If MVP goes all the way around the right, he will actually be able to get in a good position. Polt can't fight here.
Polt needs to do something before the 3rd is being assailed, and he moves it back immediately. He does not want to defend. He has the siege tanks on high ground now, though. Oh, the Marines moving in, but now the siege tanks are ready, and therefore it's too dangerous for the Marines to actually engage this.
And since Polt sees with the Marine that there is no 3rd base position there by MVP, he doesn't hesitate for a second to lift that command center. He's like, well, yeah, I'm going to lose a lot of mine time in my 3rd with this, but I actually don't need to worry about that too much, considering he hasn't even started a third yet. Now he's seen with his Marine that an SCV went over there, so he knows MVP not only doesn't have it at the location, but he hasn't even started it yet.
And this is the big problem for MVP, of course, because Polt has a lot more SCV production available. He has the extra energy that he can use for scans or mules. This is all very important, and he can just use it on the low ground anytime he wants, as soon as he's comfortable with defending this position. And of course, with the sensor tower now in position at the top bottom left, we currently have, of his main base that is, we currently have him in a great position to scout when there is going to be a drop lane.
Yes.
So more sensor towers are now being built, and this is pretty cool. One of them actually for MVP. Actually not, I take that back.
Well, he's trying to be very aggressive with this Viking. And neither of them having really a huge advantage in air control. Polt having the advantage now with just one Viking, but he can't do that Viking leash. He doesn't have enough to like push his way through here. Plus, his opponent's got a concave at the bottom of his ramp. Oh, now MVP trying to push things back. And he's got the Viking there on a chain, and as soon as he steps into the boundary of the siege tanks with the Marines to try to snipe it, he loses a lot of them. You got to be careful with that. Now Polt going for a pretty big drop here for Medevacs full, and as you mentioned, I thought I saw MVP making a sensor tower as well, but it turns out he's not. He must have canceled it. Decided he didn't want it.
The big problem for MVP at this point, sorry, for Polt, is that he is just in the worst position. He has a slight soft contain that does not allow him to get his third base. And he knows that time is working for his opponent. So he's using this drop, but it has already been spotted by his opponent. And now those two armies are walking into each other. Polt realizes it way too late, loses half his army already before he uses Stim. And now he's forced back here. Might even lose another medevac. No, but still he lost 2 and way too many Marines. He's now down 30 supply.
Yeah, that was a huge hit, losing so many units in an already desperate situation. I love that he made the sensor tower at his natural as well, so now he's got 2 towers, and it spots the positioning of the tanks. He knows exactly how many tanks are there. He knows if they're supported or not. And he could have perhaps tried to break through once the Marines moved back, but now it's too late. They're already back here, and he can see that with the sensor tower. He can't actually come down here. And not only that, but his Marines were out of position because they were in the drop. So it looks like he may want to try to set up a flank. He's got these Marines to the left side, and they may actually catch the Vikings that MVP is sitting around the left.
He has to crush this. He can't move out without MVP noticing it, so he can't go for any kind of base race scenario, and he doesn't really have the army to pull it off either. So at this point, he has to do something. Either attack this and crush it, or trying to just lift everything to the left and flank his opponent, which is apparently what he might consider to do. He's once again using those medevacs. Earlier it didn't succeed, but now Polt is really eager to get into a better position and take down these forces of MVP.
I love how he's doing this, because with the sensor tower, everything is known to him. He knows exactly where the tanks are positioned, and he knows where the clumped up area of units is, and that means that's where the Marines are. So he can try to come from the side. And MVP, though, is already maxed, and he's been mining a lot more, so he needs to not just win this fight and break the contain, he needs to crush MVP's army. That's what he needs to do here. And he may. Look at this. He's maybe going to catch some of the smaller units out of the position.
He already revealed that Polt is moving out. He saw the medevacs earlier, just moving to the left side, and then used the scan just here. So with the sieged up tank and all the Marines that he has, the Marine count is currently 79 to 66 in favor of the LGIM player. Polt is in a better position now, but than he was before, but it's still very hard for him to do something. The third base for MVP is ready, and even if Polt now lowers his this command center to the low ground, he will be behind.
And he's got a position on the high ground here in the middle of the map, but MVP moves back with his tanks, and they're just going to fight each other here with good siege tank positioning.
+2 attack upgrade for the siege tanks now coming, +3 for the bio units.
And he stims in, he knows there's no siege tank support here, takes out a tank. That was sick.
Well, that was also really risky. In this position, when the Marines are a little bit more to the right side of the map, then suddenly he could have lost too many. With this funnel that we see here, was definitely taking a bit of risk.
He's going for a flank now. He knows his opponent does not have enough Marines. He's got the better upgrades on those 2-2 versus 2-1 +2 armor for Polt, about to finish, but it's not done, and he crushes this army.
Yep, this army is dead in seconds. Polt now, of course, once again positioned in the middle of the map. This is the one thing that this whole endeavor basically resulted in, with Polt having a better position and enabling Polt to get his third base. But as we have now all these upgrades for MVP, the advantage in upgrades, the advantage in everything, by the way. In maybe not in the tank count, but he has more Marines, he has the better upgrades, army supply is roughly even, and MVP had this third base for just so much longer.
Yeah. And, I mean, Polt Bolt's got it now, but he doesn't even have his gases up there just yet. So look at the gas bank. It's 500 to 200. MVP just having so much more to spend. That's why he's got +3 fast. So that's why he's got +2 for his siege tanks coming out already. Bolt's siege tanks only having the +1. He hasn't even started +2 just yet.
There's also the fourth base that MVP is now building. So all the upgrades are just working in favor of MVP. Polt with his third base is of course now trying to buy time to get even with his opponent. And let's see how aggressive MVP is trying to play this game from now on.
Yeah, he's going to have to start trading, and he's going to do it. He's tries to send a group of Marines around to the third base and catch Polt off guard. But Polt is not to be caught off guard. Stims twice, but he's got enough medevacs to where that's not too significant at this stage in the game, especially considering how much energy he's built up already. MVP remains ahead in supply, and the siege tank count, though, is in Polt's favor. 13 to 11. A lot of the supply difference that we have here is actually in workers. 75 workers to 55 in MVP's favor here. So that means that Polt can still win a fight if he picks the right one. He's got turrets set up in his main base against these drops. Will he actually pull units back, though? Because he's going to need at least a few of them.
Apparently he's stimming in now, but that's a little bit too late already with the support by the medivacs. He will not be able to crush this. There are the Marines, and Polt just has not enough to hold this off just yet.
Yeah, he had to cancel the command center, and reinforcing units are not going to be enough. He's starting to lose a lot of add-ons here. And meanwhile, he pulls most of his units back, and that's why MVP is moving to the right side of the map right now. He's using this opportunity to reposition. This is a great choice. Now he's going to try to break through these siege tanks. I'm not sure how cost-efficient this is going to be, but Polt does not react until too late. All of his siege tanks are gone now.
Polt is too late with his Marines. He's not stimming them. I'm running him to the right in order to help out the siege tanks. So MVP is already sieged up. Kills most of Polt's tanks. Now MVP in the tank lead with 11 to 8. And again in a position where he can target the third base.
Yeah, and Polt's got a decent defensive position, but he will lose the orbital. Oh! Barely repairs it, but MVP, he's not done yet. He's taken out the tank that got too close.
And now the siege tanks are ready once more. Very tough position for Polt to be in. He doesn't have the bank, whereas MVP can now just rebuild once more his army. And he has such a huge lead. He's nearly back to 200 supply, a 70 supply lead for the GIM player. The 3 mining bases, taking his 4th. This is just way too much for Polt to handle at this point in time.
Polt seems a little bit nervous to go for a run-by right now. He's got a group of Marines to the left side that he's not really using. There's a wave of reinforcements for MVP coming, but he just missed his opportunity to try to go for a run-by. Now he's more concerned about his third base, though, which is being shelled by siege tanks while Marines are moving in, and he may target it down this time. It's getting dangerously low. Goes for a siege tank instead, doesn't get it, and these small little victories for Polt will add up, but it's just how much will he actually be able to gain. MVP now takes out his army to the left.
It's something that MVP can trade. He has more money, he has the income. Polt is running out of both, so therefore MVP can afford to just throw his opponent back as soon as he can. A nice trying with the mule here to bait siege tank fire onto the tanks of MVP, but it doesn't work. The only thing that MVP has to do here is make sure that Polt does not mine from the third base. As long as he does it, he can even trade cost inefficiently because his economy is just so good with the third and the fourth. He's way ahead of Polt. Every wave of reinforcements that MVP sends across the map is bigger than Polt's entire army. Polt has 63 supply, and 20 of that, which is roughly 1/3, is in medevacs. He's got 10 medevacs floating here, 10 medevacs and 8 Marines. That's like 1.25 or so per Marine for the ratio there. That's not good. That's way too much healing, not enough DPS. The army supply here is 115 against 45. And now, of course, Polt with the attempt of taking another base at the left side of the map, unknown of MVP, but the Terran player for LGIM, if he doesn't end things right now, he will definitely scout to the left of the map. These Marines are not enough to take down the tanks, and Polt types GG, and the series is tied, MVP tying things up.